Joining us to discuss this topic, we're first joined by Ambassador Mark Sofer, who is a former Israeli ambassador to India, who is joining us from Israel. Ambassador Sofer, thank you very much for your time. I want to first get a real understanding of the feeling in Israel. Is there a feeling there that war is on the cusp and there is a return to action very soon?
Well, as long as Hamas has any type of foothold in Gaza, war is always a possibility. I would perhaps even more than that. But I think that what is most important right now for Israeli society and Israeli people, I don't know if it could say that about every part of the Israeli government, but certainly the society is to get the hostages out. You've seen the conditions they've been in. You're hearing the stories of how they were tortured, psychologically, physically, mentally, in every way. And this really is our top priority.
Yes, staying with you, Ambassador Sofer, I want to look at the comments from Benjamin Netanyahu. He says that they're ready, and we of course have seen troop and military intensification around Gaza, but also into the West Bank. Do you think this is a start of a more full-scale military assault or military incursion, or do you think this is just preventative based on what's happened in recent days? Of course, we had the explosions on the buses, we had issues with the ceasefire as well, not going to plan. So do you think there's something else behind it, or this is just what was expected given what's happened?
I think it's a mixture of both. On the one hand, it's to put pressure on Hamas to release the hostages immediately. And that has international support throughout the civilized world. But I also think it sends a clear message to Hamas that we are ready. We are going to continue the war to the eradication of Hamas militarily and politically. And that's really all there is to it. I'm not speaking on behalf of the government. I'm not a government spokesman, and certainly not of the current Israeli government. But I think that this is pretty much consensual among Israeli people. Now, when you talk about Jenin and when you talk about the West Bank, you mentioned en passant about the buses. This was a major issue here. There were 5 buses, which 3 blew up and 2 didn't blow up, and they went off in the evening. But had they gone off in the morning, which was planned to happen, and it was a mistake that it didn't, there would have been mega deaths, literally hundreds and hundreds of people killed. This is considered to be a huge terrorist operation, and we have zero tolerance for terrorism. And I think that the majority, I would like to hope that the majority of Palestinians believe that terrorism is getting them absolutely nowhere. It certainly hasn't over the past 30, 40 years. And that now we have to try a different tack of trying to find a way forward instead of blowing up, killing, massacring and maiming, which has been so much of what we've seen, certainly in Gaza and to a certain extent in the Hamas footholds like the Jenin refugee camp.
Yes, and moving on, we're also joined by Ali M. Abushbak, who is an independent Palestinian researcher joining us from Cairo. Thank you for being here, Ali. I'd like to look at the hold-up that we're currently faced with regarding these prisoners who were set to be released and haven't. I want to look at the potential implications that Hamas is seeing with this, but also what the people of Palestine are feeling. Of course, this next step, it was an exchange. 6 hostages were freed and the prisoners weren't returned. So what's your feeling on that, and what is the feeling in Palestine at the moment and in Gaza?
Well, thank you for having me. It's a very sad day and a heartbreaking day when since Israel is not committed to its obligation for the ceasefire in Gaza and the deal. Unfortunately, there is no hope, and there is what is happening on the ground. Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, not Israel, because according to the last poll for the Israeli I-24 television channel, according to that the poll, more than 60% of the Israeli, they are supporting to move forward to the second phase of the negotiation, while also 25% of the Israeli, they are supporting to resume the war in Gaza, and more than 53% of the Israeli community, they are supporting the ceasefire in Gaza and not returning to the war. In this aesthetic. Benjamin Netanyahu put it in his bag, and he doesn't care about the Israeli population. He doesn't care about the families of the hostages or captive in Israel, who's weekly protesting in the square of captive or hostages in Tel Aviv. And they are growing day after day, and they are got supported from the Israeli community. Benjamin Netanyahu, what he's doing on the ground, he's trying to buy the time for his coalition government and make Smotrich and Ben Gvir, the far right wing in Israel, be satisfied from his policy. And also what is, I mean, no one can read what is in the mind of Benjamin Netanyahu, but we are coming to the, in coming next week, there is a holy month for Muslim people, it's Ramadan, and we can see that it will be extended, the violence in Jerusalem, especially in Al-Aqsa Mosque, when the people and the Muslim community, they are gathering to offer praise in that area. So it will increase the violence in Jerusalem as well as in West Bank. Now in Gaza also, he's ready to return to the war. But I guess this is just only a psychological war for the Palestinians to put pressure on Hamas to release the coming captive in Gaza. On the ground, the people are unfortunate, and they are getting receive this news to delay the exchange captive and the prisoner between Hamas and Israel by heartbreaking, while the fragile of ceasefire, it seems that we are going to the end of the way between ceasefire between Hamas and Gaza and Israel.
Yes, also joining us to discuss this topic is Dr. Amjad Ayub Mirza, who is a foreign affairs expert, joining us from London. Dr. Mirza, thank you very much also for being here. How important is this meeting of the Arab nations, and what impact could it have in potentially providing another option for the future of Gaza other than the one that Trump has proposed?
Well, it's a good sign that the Arab nations are coming together. I don't think it is going to serve any purpose, because these countries have got lame governments. They have no teeth. So any discussion about ceasefire, about prisoners, should start with the condemnation of the attack of October the 7th by Hamas. And that is where it all started. And it has got a historical background to it as well. But if you want to condemn or say anything about Netanyahu or Israel, your starting point should be that I condemn the attack of 7th October on innocent people. And this distinguished guest, your distinguished guest, Mr. Ali, is smiling. I mean, the Palestinians have a problem. The problem is not with Israel. The problem with the Palestinians that they fail to recognize that all this destruction has brought upon them not by Israel, but because of Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization. They have been brainwashed. These children, from a very young age in the schools, have taught a particular narrative about their history, which is based on nothing but lies and hate towards the Jews and the Christians. So you can't reason with these people. And where does this say that if you are arrested for committing a crime in a country and you're sentenced or you're under trial, that another country should come in and kill your people, take them hostage, and then demand you to abandon your trial process and hand them over? So from the very start, this demand about releasing prisoners and all that, I don't buy into that. I think this is a larger, Hamas is a proxy of Iran and a wider regional game. And Hamas is basically has been used. This Palestinian gentleman should understand, they have been used by Iran to sabotage the India-Middle East economic corridor, which was being agreed upon by Israel and India and Saudi Arabia and Jordan, so that there could be an economic corridor, number one. Number two, and final point is that Saudi Arabia and Israel were about to sign the diplomatic formally establishing diplomatic relations. So that is another thing. If that would have happened, it would have ended this taboo of recognizing the state of Israel. Finally, I think that Gaza, West Bank, they should become part of Greater Israel. Historically, if you see, to be honest, I mean, from a religious perspective as well, Jews were here first, then the dawn of Islam. So
yes, Dr. Mirza, I'm really sorry to cut you off. We only have a minute left, and I do want to get Ali's response to something that you said there in regards to the Palestinian people. Ali, just very quickly, we've got a minute or so. Do you think the feeling amongst Palestinians, considering what's happened over the last 15, 16 months, do you think their opinions on Hamas and their allegiance towards Hamas has changed given the devastation?
Well, this is a very good and tough question. In fact, I was thinking, I believe that you will ask me this question, and I'm afraid to give you a statement. But for 15 months of the war in Gaza, people are suffering a lot, and especially civilian in Gaza. So also even the mentality of Hamas, maybe they changed, because in the very beginning, Hamas holding on the power to Gaza, holding to the power on Gaza, and now Hamas statement through their channels and through their spokesman, they are ready to give up the power in Gaza. But here, the main question I want to ask Mr. Mark about it. Benjamin Netanyahu, he said we will not let Hamas to control Gaza, as well as Benjamin Netanyahu, he doesn't want to empower the Palestinian Authority to control Gaza. If Hamas not controlling Gaza and Palestinian Authority who's giving Israel and coordinated with Israel, and also with Palestinian Authority recognize Israel as a state, as a state. So who would be control Gaza? People in Gaza, the last concern for them, who will control them? Even they don't care about if Israel will occupy Gaza and will rule Gaza. They don't have an issue. But Israel should take their responsibility toward the people and the civilian in Gaza. So here is the main things. We have seen during the handover the ceremonies, a few people, they are gathering and supporting Hamas, but on the ground and the reality, people get frustrated of continuous war between Israel and Gaza. And I'm wondered about this question, who will control Gaza? If Benjamin Netanyahu, he doesn't accept Hamas and he doesn't accept Palestinian Authority, and he will not let the Palestinian technocrat to control Gaza or West Bank, then who will control Gaza? Who will govern Gaza?
Well, let's very briefly throw that to Ambassador Sofa then. Do you think that Benjamin Netanyahu wants to stand behind what Donald Trump has said and let the US come in and do what they want to and have Israel almost as the peacekeepers in that instance, allowing Gaza to be rebuilt? Or do you think that there's another plan for the Israeli government?
Well, I think to answer that question and the question of Mr. Ali just a few moments ago, I would say the following. Number one, there's very few issues in Israel which people, I've said this before on this program, which Israel has a consensus on. There's almost nothing that we are consensual about in that we are a democratic society, and we argue. And we are in a difficult situation. We're not Iceland, and we're not some place which is living in complete and utter tranquility. But if one thing we are in complete consensus about is Hamas. There will not be any Hamas control militarily or politically inside of Gaza or anywhere, period. And I think it's time that all Palestinians, not just the more moderate ones or the more intellectual ones, internalize this fact. It will not happen. And if it will happen, if they continue to, it's a recipe for continued war, continued bloodshed, and continued conflict. So we have to really they have to really internalize that. Number two, yes, Mr. Netanyahu has said that not the Palestinian Authority. I agree to a certain extent that the Palestinian Authority today is not capable of running. It can't run the West Bank. It can't run itself, and it certainly can't run Gaza. It's a corrupt and with complete inability to do anything. So if it's not completely refurbished and completely refreshed and completely overturned, in which case it won't be the Palestinian Authority as we know today. We'll be in a different ball game. And you mentioned the issue of the Arab meeting in Cairo. Now, I think what's happened, and this is perhaps as a result of the Trump plan, which many people can subscribe to, many people don't subscribe to it. But for the first time, I think for a long time at least, we've seen the Arab world putting on the table, Egypt running it, a possible solution for Gaza. Which is built on technocrats, yes. There are plenty of intellectual technocrats inside of Palestinian society, plenty of brilliant people there that can run it, and they are not corrupt, and they are not supportive of terrorism, and they are able to, with international help, of course, with international Arab and international financing, Gulf world, etc., yes, to rebuild Gaza. I think we may be seeing here the possibility or the beginning of something which might take root. It's too early to say at this stage, but certainly, and I repeat this again and again, not Hamas and the Palestinians, all Palestinians, 100% of them have to internalize that, period. There are no two ways about this. So the Palestinian Authority, let's see what happens there, let's see if it changes its spots, and yes, what will happen in Gaza.
Unfortunately, Ambassador, so far we do have to move on. We've run a little bit over there, but thank you very much, Ali, for joining us.